Hello and welcome back to the Fairbanks Year-Round Podcast. First, I have to apologize because there was a week that a podcast did not come out, which is 100% my fault. And probably this one you're listening to now, if for you avid listeners who are just can't wait for the next episode to come out, is out late, and that is completely up to me. Up to me, and is my fault because I did run out of guests, and not because there aren't a bunch of interesting people to interview or anything like that. But we are in summertime, which means I'm selling more, which means I'm doing more house projects. And to be honest, I just procrastinated and put other things above the priority of lining up new guests. So I am working currently on getting new guests. I'm going to record a little batch of solo episodes. So you may, if you're watching, you may notice that the shirt and hairstyle and everything is going to be the same. But I really am bummed that I missed a week. So I'm going to make up for that. We're going to have a double week here. And some time later in the week, you'll get a bonus episode, and then we will be back on track because I just hate that I missed it. So, and I do like doing these solo episodes. So I don't really see it as a negative. I hope you don't either, but we should have more guests coming up very quickly. I'm getting them all lined up, and I usually get 2 or 3 months of guests lined up at a time. So that's, if you're wondering how that goes, just book these things really far out, and I came to the end of that. And yeah, life happened and things came up, and I just didn't schedule as I should have for the next ones. So let's talk about the seasons of selling today, because we have this season we're in, this sunny season. And if my throat was a little scratchy, it's because it's smoky out and I can smell it right now. If you don't live in Alaska or in the Fairbanks area in particular, we have a bunch of wildfires throughout the interior, really throughout the whole state of Alaska every summer. Someone can probably correct me. My understanding is there's always like thousands of different forest fires going on across the state. And it really just depends on where they are at, of course, and which way the wind is blowing as to how much smoke that we have here in Fairbanks and the North Pole area. So it's a bit of a bummer when you have a really rainy year, because we have long winters, as some of you may or may not know, and I'm going to kind of cover what that looks like for you that are not here, also what the housing market looks like kind of throughout the year, and we're going to be speaking in generalities because anything can change at any time, and there's, what I've learned about selling real estate in Fairbanks is that it's just different. Like every quarter you have to adjust, and that may be just since COVID, but every quarter I feel like is a totally different market for various reasons. Excuse me. So anyways, the smoke there. So if you have a rainy year, it's great because it keeps the smoke down and it keeps the fires down throughout the state, but then you don't get as much sunshine, and it's a little bit darker, so that's a bit of a bummer. A really sunny year, it feels great and dry, but there is seemingly more chance of the smoke and fire coming in. So we do have a pretty good amount of smoke out there today as I record this. I have seemingly gotten more sensitive to that the older I've gotten, where it hits my throat pretty quickly when it's smoky, as you might imagine. So let us begin, and we're going to start in the summer months talking about selling. We'll start in spring. I changed my mind just as I was saying it. So we will start in spring, and we have obviously very harsh weather changes. It gets up to the 80s in the summer. I think the record may be in the 90s. And then in the winter, we get down to 50 below, sometimes 40 below almost every year, at least for a little bit. So this really does affect our housing market much more heavily. I used to sell down in Arkansas, and the winters, maybe we got a snow every other year, and it would stick for like the morning. And I remember as a kid watching it would tell you if schools were shut down on the TV channel, the local TV channel. It would run across the bottom of the screen. And I remember if we had any snow at all, if it stuck to the roads at all, they would shut school down because nobody had snow tires or anything. I mean, just like an inch. If it stuck to the roads, they were shutting the school down. And it would go through all the schools in the district or in the area alphabetically. And we would just watch, and we'd watch. And then the school wouldn't come up when it should. And we're like, oh, maybe the next time around. And all morning we'd watch until we had to get on the bus. And of course, if it did come through, it was like, thank God we didn't have to go to school. But if it didn't, we would just be like, no, let's wait one more round, Mom, before you take us to school. I think maybe it's going to pop up that we're going to be in there. So here, however, I forgot how I got on that tangent. We get a lot of snow. And yes, down in Arkansas, the weather, we don't get that cold. And the housing market, therefore, was actually pretty stable, which I really prefer a stable market. I prefer living in Fairbanks than living in Arkansas. But if I was to choose, like, hey, steady Freddy, not so much ups and downs, that would be that would be my choice. So here, with these harsh winters, it does change things quite a bit. So in springtime, and we're going to say Alaska spring, we're not going to go by what the calendar tells you. I believe like March 21st or something, or 22nd. Would be the start of official spring. We still have snow and such on the ground. So our first season is breakup, and that is in the April-ish time frame. And things really, for the housing market, actually seem to drop off quite a bit then. And if you're thinking of selling a home, it seems like everybody is getting prepped and getting excited for spring and having grass and everything, but everything is also kind of ugly and muddy. And I don't think this is necessarily a negative thing, but people seem to stop calling my phone right around then for a few weeks. And so you may have a little bit of a lull in that time. However, as with any lulls, there's always like another side. In general, I think when you need to sell is the best time to sell. Like if you've decided to sell, like let's just get going for it kind of thing. But there's obviously life circumstances and different things that can change that for you. But in this muddy season, I do experience a little bit of a lull, but there's not a lot of listings coming up either because a lot of people aren't wanting to take photos when it's not as pretty and all the different things where, and you're doing your spring cleaning, you're maybe prepping to get your house ready for that time. So it's just something I've noticed. I think if you had a listing to sell in that time, I think you'd still sell it, especially in this market, because we just don't have enough listings. It's kind of gotten a lot easier on that end, but it would be one of the few. So someone who's really needing to move and is uncaring of what time it is, and they're like trying to get stuff done because they're here and they're in every market. If you've got a good option and you're one of the few on the market, that's always that balance point where it's like, hey, now there is less on the market that you have to compete with. So that is the breakup season. And then when coming into spring, and I'm just going to kind of run these together, but spring basically ramps up into summer and we get busier and busier. And this is when the most amount of houses get listed. On the back end, we keep a list of all of our coming soon listings, which just means like, hey, these are listings that are in the works. So all of our team knows what to expect and, be ready for them when they hit the market. This is when we see that coming soon in the spring. This is when we see that coming soon list just grow exponentially. It may like quadruple in size this year in particular. It seems like we're going to have a better inventory year than we've been having over the past few years. And again, whenever I say inventory, that's just the the amount of listings on the market. Side note, we'll talk about this. Actually, I have another video idea, so we'll skip the side note. So this is when our springtime's when that coming soon listing is growing, and even in the breakup season as well, you'll see that people really getting prepped to put their houses on the market. And then as they naturally would, they start coming on the market, and we see a ramp up into summer where this is our biggest selling time, which is great. It seems like the most buyers are buying, the most sellers are selling. And in our current market, this can change all the time. Our current market, we still don't have enough houses for sale. So it's really outpacing where we are getting multiple offers. Again, I'm having personally, we're in the just dead center of summer right now as I record this. We just passed the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. And again, if you don't live here, that's a big celebration. Big celebration for us. We do the midnight sun run, have the festival and everything around that time, which this year, side note, I did none of it. I did house projects instead, which I'm going to talk a little bit about as well. But yeah, so we have the most houses on the market. We have the most buyers looking to buy, and things are fast and furious. And it seems, I should have looked up percentages, but it seems like in the spring, summer, and before the snow hits fall time, I feel like we do like 60 to 75% of the total business. At least that's for me. I know a lot of people could be a little bit more steady on that side. So the bulk of real estate sales are happening then. No shocker. The weather is nice. It's much easier to move. So now let's move into fall. And just as fall, everybody is pretty wore out because we have basically all day long sunlight coming through, and everybody's excited to be outside. We're all doing stuff. We're sleeping less in general because of that light, and just, we have a limited time. It's like this clock starts up when all the snow has melted, where everyone's like, we've only got so many days. We've only got so many weekends to get stuff done, to go play, to get house projects done, all the things. So fall comes rolling around, and if you've done it right, you're pretty exhausted. And in my opinion, we should push so hard in the summer. maybe this is a bad way to go about it, that you're exhausted and you're ready for winter to come, because it's like, thank God I don't have so much going on in the wintertime, although that's not true for everybody. So fall has this natural slowdown period where people are no longer listing their houses. And in our current market, it is the listings. I mean, listings always decide in a way, but is kind of deciding the speed of the market, because the buyers are here. The buyers are still here. And this is kind of what I want people to understand if you're selling your house. The buyers are here year round, but they are being stymied, and they're having to figure out a different way to cope with maybe not having a house right away, depending on the season that they start looking. So I have buyers that are ready to buy all through winter, but nothing really comes up that meets their needs. So the fall, these listings start slowing down. Buyers are still there, ready to buy, and they start eating them up. And you could see a bit of an uptick in maybe multiple offers. If there's way less listings, but not generally. You're seeing kind of steady, stable on the how many offers you get and such. And then we are into the dead of winter, and again, this is when it just gets cold, man. It's hard to move. I sell all year round, so it's not uncommon for people to move in the cold. I moved into my house into like March, which ended up being really nice. It was supposed to be before, and it was like 20 below the week I was supposed to close. It all got extended way longer than it should have when I first moved back here. And we moved. I remember I had my brother-in-law helping. We moved. There was a little bit of snow on the ground, but it was like, I don't know, 30 or 40 degrees. And he was just like, this is the perfect weather. And I'm like, with a jacket and stuff on, like, I'm a little cold here. And now the longer I've lived here, the more acclimated you get, where if it gets above 50 degrees and I'm working, I'm like sweating like a dog. So anyways, so dead of winter, just as you'd imagine, things slow down. But this isn't an opportunity. This is the biggest opportunity for being we'll say a big fish in a little pond. This idea of being a good option when there's hardly any options out there anyways. So if you have to list in the winter, even if you don't have to, but it's something to consider, is you don't have near as much competition. And in the next video, which will be some bonus episode or next week, so keep an eye out for that, I'm going to talk about pricing and when you list and what is going to be out there comes into how you price things. So there is a shot that you could be getting a better price for your house if you sell it in the winter. So it's just something to consider, because everybody thinks they're going to sell their house for more in the summertime. And there's no like perfect answer to this. But anyways, the overall thought is, hey, there's not near as many houses here. We still have buyers that are needing to buy, that are willing to buy something. So this could be a really good option for you to leverage that. And if you've got the right fit house for what's being needed out there, maybe get yourself a little bit better of a price. So let's talk about the weather itself and the people. Seasonalities in the area. So again, starting with the dead of winter, since we ended there. So the dead of winter, we get days as short as like 4 hours. Maybe the sun coming up around 10, going back down around 2-ish. And that is the winter solstice. That is obviously when it's usually coldest. That's not true. The start of winter, first snow is sticking usually around the beginning of October, sometimes the first or second week of October. And then most of the times by the end of October at Halloween, we always make a joke about this. It seems like it drops out, the temperature drops out, and we get down to like 15, 20 below, because we're all having to have parkas on over our Halloween costumes to go trick-or-treating with the kids. We have had the past 2 years have actually been, I think, pretty nice. At least last year, I want to say it was like 20 or 30 degrees. Like, it was pretty warm for Halloween, so that was great. And the days, again, are just getting shorter around this time, like September, October. I would say we're pretty normal days compared to like the rest of the world. But yeah, they just get shorter and shorter. And the winter is not too bad, I will say, until New Year's, because you've got Halloween, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, and it's getting cold, and we're certainly getting down below 20 below zero. And maybe we hit like 30 or 40 below before New Year's, but it's not super common. And then, of course, after Christmas, you do have the New Year's celebration. And so there's a lot of reasons for, I don't know, it's nice, it's fun, it's the beginning of winter. At least I do like winter. So the first little bit, most people don't have too tough of a time. And then the winter solstice around December 21st, I believe, the shortest day of the year. Of course, everything starts turning around, and you're like, all right, And what a lot of people I've noticed is they feel like winter is pretty much over at that point. However, you're like halfway. So you do have a lot of winter ahead of you. January, February is when it is the coldest. January generally being when you have the 40 below, for maybe a week or two. If it hits that, last year we had a long time where we were hitting 50 below, which is not every single year. But yeah, must have been in January. Yeah, that would have been in January. February is usually pretty cold. And then March is when people start getting a little hopeful again. The days get longer. It's like technically when spring begins. It's what everybody has in their head at least. But there's still a lot of snow. We probably still hitting 10, 15 below, getting closer to that 0 mark. And again, it's not like we hit a temperature and just stay there forever. It sounds like in the past, maybe that was the way it was. Like things were a lot more steady. But I feel like since I've been living here, at least, it just vacillates all over the place. You could have 3 weeks of 20 below, but you could have a day of 15 above, back down to 15 below in 3 days, and up and down from there. So again, just speaking kind of general, getting to March, April, and then again, like I said, you start getting real antsy. People are feeling the spring come on. They're starting to prep themselves for the summer vacation time. And promise it's not a booger, but it is itchy nose. And, so, and when I start thinking about it, it's hard to stop thinking about it. So it's down there, making my face twitch because it's itching. But anyways, you've got coming into spring, finally things melt up, everything's muddy, kind of messy. People are like probably starting house projects. This is when you have maybe water coming into your basement if you've not prepped the prior year for water intrusion, and maybe your gutters got clogged or something. So work probably does start right around when everything starts melting. This is also funny enough, breakup time is when a lot of people, their lines will freeze up, their water lines out in the ground, or septic lines as well, sewer lines, excuse me. Well, both sewer or septic lines will freeze up, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's getting warm out. Like, what's the deal? And I am no master of this, but my understanding is, the ground is freezing all winter long, and it's going deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's freezing deeper into the ground. And then breakup happens, and things start melting. But maybe at nighttime it's still cold for one, and the day it gets above freezing. But that thermal mass of that big chunk of ice that's frozen down 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, however deep in whatever area you are, it's still creeping down further. So even if at surface level it's warm, it doesn't mean that down below it's not freezing what's below it, like having an ice cube that's just drawing the heat out of your hand, let's say, if it was on your hand. So anyways, that is a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people because it's getting warm and then their water line freezes. And it's like, oh, what the heck? We thought we made it through. How come it didn't freeze at 40 below? But this is the time that the ground will be frozen as deep as possible and could possibly still be creeping down further as it goes. So you got some of those, hopefully, nightmare projects that don't pop up for you, but those could pop up. And then, yeah, you're in spring, summer, you're into fall, and you're trying to find the balance, at least me, between being productive, having fun, and all of the, again, with my job, the sales, and a lot of people have seasonal jobs where you're just like, it just feels like everyone is going all day long, sun up to sundown, which, spoiler alert, there is no sun up and sundown. Technically, the sun does set for about 4 hours at the summer solstice time, but it's like dusky, if anything. Like it's really pretty much 24-hour daylight out for quite a few months. And people, again, you don't sleep much. Something for me personally, a lot of people don't have any form of AC. So I've been dealing with this. I was going to get a little portable AC unit from Costco, but darn it, I waited too long and they all sold out. That's how Costco gets you. They have this limited stock, and then what this is going to do is it trains me now that if I see something that I'm kind of considering at Costco, I just immediately buy it because I'm afraid it's going to sell out. But I've been trying to be more frugal lately, and I was like, let's just think about it. But now I'm dying at night. But anyways, so houses get really freaking hot, at least my house. So I have like kind of a tri-level situation. Master is up at the very top, and that heat just like throughout the day just collects up in my room, basically is what it feels like. So very frequently it's like 80 degrees. And that's just too hot for me to sleep in. Like first world problems, man. At least I don't have mosquitoes eating at me, giving me viruses and all kinds of stuff. But really, it can be pretty hot, and so my sleep quality goes way down personally. And because in the winter, my room is cold and it's dark. And it sounds so nice as I'm talking about this. And you can sleep. Some people can just sleep for days. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I just, hey, I'm going to sleep in. And you wake up with the sunrise, and the sunrise is at like 10 in the morning. And you're like, oh, yeah, I just got like 11 hours of sleep or something. So, anyways, sorry, I was getting excited thinking about my fitful hot sleep. So I got fans and stuff going on. So that's pretty common up here. I don't have any AC, of course, because it doesn't really get too hot for too long. That's what I got to tell myself. But for 2 months there, it can be pretty toasty if you don't have a basement or something to go down to, which I do have a basement, but I don't know. I just don't sleep very good in something that's not my own bed. So people are going. How do you find that balance? I don't know. I haven't figured it out. Play, work, relax. Hopefully I'll figure it out one of these times. I generally lean towards just doing a ton of house projects. This year I've slowed down on those, but I'm kind of kicking myself into gear because like, oh yeah, I need wood. I need wood chopped up for the winter and the wood stove and all that. So there's a bunch of stuff that I still need to do. Then fall comes along, and this is when my birthday is. If you guys want to give me presents, no. But I bring that up right at the end of September is like, for me, I have a little like bonfire usually. There's maybe a light snow that probably doesn't stick, or at least we hope it doesn't stick at the end of September there. And yeah, it kind of denotes like this little bit slowing down where we have nights again, we're sleeping better, things are cooling off for sure. And then you go into winter, and like I've already stated before, you hole up and enjoy your winter vacation and try to make it through after New Year's until breakup season happens. And something a lot of people do, I didn't bring this up, January is like the month people get out. Because that's that midway point. That's when things mentally start getting a little hard, and Hawaii should be our sister state. I don't know if we could make that official, but going down to Hawaii from Alaska is just super, super common for obvious reasons. Getting out and getting some sun. It's nice and toasty in the wintertime down there. So anyways, hope that was helpful. That's kind of the seasonalities of the area if you're not familiar with it. And it's also, even if you live in the area and you're familiar with this, how the housing market is affected by those seasons as well. And I think that is going to be it for today. So as always, I am a real estate agent with the Summit Realty Group here in Fairbanks. If you want any assistance in selling or buying your home, I am for sure your guy. Or if you know of somebody that is needing some assistance, I am happy to help them. I have the time and I'm ready to go even in the summer. I know I talk about being busy and people say, I just didn't know if you had time. I always have time to sell things. Like that's what I do. That's how I make my money. So I would love if you guys would just stop what you're doing right now and think, hey, do I need to buy or sell? Yes, I do. Or, do I know anybody that needs to buy or sell? Send them to Blake. I'll take care of you, man. And I'll take care of them as well. So have a good one, and I will see you on the next one. Again, I'll be in the same clothes. So for me, it'll be like nothing, but for you, days will have passed. That's it, guys. Thanks. Bye.